Okay, so it is 9 o'clock. Good morning. I'm going to try and make today kind of short, but I did want to show you guys a little bit about MEL scripting without getting, or MEL and Python inside of Maya without getting, too into it, because I know you guys have a lot to do, and I wanted to make sure that you had, today to do it. If we come into our calendar, so I just wanted to show you guys and remind you guys how things are working over the next couple of weeks. You guys are not that one. So all of y'all got your Python presentations in. Congratulations. Thank you very much for getting them in. And that sounded really facetious, but I do mean that. I do honestly mean thank you very much for getting in your projects. So you've got a lot of things that were due today. So just, try and get through them as best you can. Like I said, today is pretty much going to be a lab day, so you can do them. Or I guess they were due yesterday, but whatever. You guys have a week to do them. So you got a bunch of junk due today. Or due yesterday, today, whatever we want to call it. And you've got the Code Academy thing due today, which is on Phaser. The assignment attached to Phaser, or at least this one that's due here, you should do pretty fresh after taking the Code Academy assignment, or after doing it, because all it is, hey, did you like this? Did this make more sense than other things we've done? That's basically all you're doing with it. So I'm not going to expend too much time on that. It's just me trying to think about how I want to change this course, because I kind of want to change this course. I want to change this course. So, and I have a little bit of a freedom to do that. So, with that said, we will not meet next week because it's Thanksgiving, so we don't have class. And even if we did, those of you who work retail, I'm sure at that point are either dead from Black Friday or are still having to go strong on Saturday. So, yeah, I get it. I feel your struggles. So, we don't have class next week. You do have a couple assignments due, but it's not anything, major. Then, this week, so the December week, yeah, my sister works at Joann's, so the fabric store, and my mom works at Build-A-Bear, so I fully know the struggles. I mean, it's not SeaWorld, which is a little bit different, but yeah, I've been, I've been listening to how they're having to prep, and yeah, it's not fun. It's never fun. So, yeah, I've had friends who do SeaWorld and Fiesta Texas and stuff like that, and it's just, yeah, it's not fun. So I feel you. So then we have December 4th, which again, you're going to see there aren't any assignments because it's 100% a work week. I may probably get on just to check in with everybody, but that's about what it's going to be. And then the week after that, we're done. So we're pretty close. And these last few weeks, I guess these last few weeks are basically going to be lab time for y'all. Because I know that you've got 8 million other projects that you have to do. Your final project, if you haven't already looked at it, because you do have a thing that's hey, what are you going to do for your final project? It's meant to be something that's not, I'm not saying it's relaxing, I'm not saying that it's easy, but it's definitely not suddenly make a brand new game in a brand new language. It's take a game that you've already made. I mean, you could if you wanted to, but take a game that you've already made and make it better. Now that you've had both of these classes. Now that you've had both of these languages. So, it's not meant to be crazy, it's meant to be now that you've gone through it, what would you change if you could? You guys wrote all your postmortems. Okay, you wrote your postmortems for Lua. Some of you still need to get me your postmortems for Python. So you can kind of look and see what you want to do, or how you want to do it. And that's yeah, that's kind of what this final thing is, and the final presentation is the same way it's been. It's not anything, no extra bells, no extra whistles, no anything like that. So it's just, record yourself. And then final evaluation is, it's like your postmortems, except that it's like a list of questions. And I'm not meaning that it needs to be something like crazy long. I may change a couple of things in here because we did a couple more things, but yeah, it's like 18 questions, but it's not meant to be you writing an essay. You can write, one word answers if you want. I'm not judging anything like that. So, but there are a couple questions in here because this is the year that we're supposed to be redefining the way that the degrees work. So whether this course is even helpful for production, because I have my doubts, or what you think would be a better, like, so if you think level design should be required to take this course, or if you'd rather see this course focus on things like looking at MEL or Python inside of Maya, or would it be better if this course was restructured so that it's not even game scripting and it's more like project management 101, because that's something as production students that you guys don't really get. You guys are just, you get to game sim and suddenly you're thrown in being the project managers. You don't really get any kind of experience in that. That's hard to do in a class, but like it might be something that's a better option for y'all. So it's just questions again, because I try and ever evolve my courses that I'm working on to make sure that they're actually working for y'all, and actually helping you with something. So, with all that said, again, we're here. So, where you had a granddaddy of massive stuff to do, you'll have most of today to actually do stuff. Next week we don't meet. You do have a couple assignments, but next week we don't meet. Then we have a lab week, which again, I'll check in with everybody, but it won't be more than probably maybe 15-20 minutes of talking. And then the last week, and we're done. Yay! Everybody says. Okay, so when it comes to MEL scripting, if you've never seen it, you've probably noticed this icon down on the bottom right of Maya. And if you click it and it opens up, it'll have a tab that says MEL and it has a tab that says Python. And you can actually look and see what it's already coded, because I'm gonna assume that all of y'all understand that at the very base of any program you have coding, since we've already kind of seen this. And before we had fancy programs that you could just click a button to add a cube, we actually had to program it. And this is even simpler than what it actually is. Like, it says, hey, create a polygon cube, polycube with a width of 1, etc., etc., etc. Deep down in the bottom of this are a bunch of matrices. Okay, do we know what matrices are? You can say no. It's not a question that you probably get asked very often. Okay, so matrices is the plural of matrix. You've probably seen them and probably had them in a class that you just looked at them, laughed at them, and said, haha, no, and walked away. So matrices are basically these kinds of things. They're these big multi-dimensional arrays that contain all sorts of numbers. And in math, we can do some pretty crazy things where we multiply them and do all sorts of, like, that's actually a decent example. Like, how do you get this matrix, like, how do you add this matrix to this, etc., etc. So, and they're just big. They work exactly like we've been using arrays, kind of. And they just hold a bunch of data, and this data does something. And to get an actual cube on the screen, we create at the very base of any program, at the very base of Maya, at the very base of Max. If you talk to people who go through game dev in C++, their last program is to actually use matrices, or their last kind of assignment, if it hasn't changed, is to use matrices to create a spinning cube as part of their game. So that's the programmer class where they've got to create their engine and everything. So they actually do this. But, so basically, it's these kind of structures that hold all the data you need about a cube. And literally, it's just numbers. And it's just numbers on numbers on numbers. And it takes forever to do. Let's see. Let me see if I can find one real quick. I should have found one earlier. DirectX 3D cube. Let's see. Yeah, so like that. But that's not even making a cube yet. That's just kind of doing stuff. So we get crazy where we start doing vertices. So this is like, hey, program a point there, program a point there, program a point there, program all the points. So, and even this is a little bit higher, and again, we've got more matrices. This is a little bit higher language than what it gets down to at the very end. Now, you know, when you think that it's hard to program in something like Lua or Python, when you look at something like this, and it's why the programmers who do take this class kind of laugh, because, you know, it's not, scripting languages are meant to be easy. This is not a scripting language. This is, I mean, it sort of is, but not really. It gets insane. So, yeah, it gets insane to do this kind of stuff. And, it's not, I mean, okay, it can be fun if you're a programmer and if you like matrices, but if you don't, then it's like, yeah. But, so, deep down at the bottom of everything, matrices are just, or cubes are just a bunch of, like, points. It's just like if you were graphing it on a graph paper. Like when we did our, the 2D drawings in Python or in Pygame and Love, it's kind of like that, only in 3 dimensions, with a lot more work involved. So, when we see something like this, it's pretty simple. And you can see if we add in like a sphere, it'll also pop up this kind of thing. And stuff like that. And this is all just saying, hey, you know, the radius is 1. Where do I put the size of x and the size of y, the axes, things like that. So you can see anytime we do anything, except for like maybe moving around, we're gonna get some new scripting inside of here. Even when we created the new file, we created stuff. And it's gonna tell us all these warnings about the fact that things aren't quite right, and other things like that. So the big difference between MEL and Python. MEL is the Maya embedded language. So that's the one that Autodesk created specifically for Maya. And it is more streamlined. It does work easier than Python, but Python has more extensibility. It has more, you can put more code into it and figure out more things with it. So a lot of people have started going away from MEL and started using Python. The thing that sucks about that, though, is that so Maya LT, those that don't know the hierarchy of Maya, so you've got big boy Maya that's like $3,000 a month. Or no, it's not even that now. It's like 15,000 or 1,500 a month or something like that. But whatever. It's not a fun price or something like that. And then underneath that, it used to be that your only other option when they released it was Maya LT, which strips out particles and dynamics. It lowers the number of animation layers you can have. It lowers a bunch of other things. So it's basically, it gives you, oh, it doesn't have a renderer. That's the other thing. But it looks and feels like Maya. And it's great for like game studios who aren't needing renderers, who like basically export everything out anyways. And it's great. As long as you don't need particles and dynamics, it's great. So for the longest time, that one was the one that you could use. Now the other thing that they stripped out that was probably the most hindersome thing was that they stripped out Python. You could only use MEL scripting. And that one's about $250 a year. Now, alternatively, you now have Maya Indie, which is kind of in the middle between the two. It's actually cheaper than Maya LT now, but Maya Indie is Maya, 100% the full version of Maya, just with a money cap on it. Sort of like how we look at Unity, if you guys have taken level design and you've talked about it. Unity and Unreal both have like $100,000 cap. If you make more than $100,000, you gotta pay in for it. But it's the same way with Maya Indie. So that one, I'm pretty sure Maya Indie has Python and MEL functionality in it. But I could be wrong because I haven't actually looked at Maya Indie because I still have my license for LT. So I'm waiting for that to wear out so that I can then grab Indie instead. Because again, it's cheaper for more functionality, and my studio definitely doesn't make $100,000 a year. So, yeah. So that's kind of one of the downsides between MEL and Python. So if you get LT, you can't use Python, you can only use MEL. And I look, everything that's in here is written in MEL. And you're gonna see it looks, relatively normal-ish. It makes sense. You can kind of read what it's doing. This thing that says command CMD, that's going to be an important kind of thing when you're doing any kind of writing to or MEL kind of scripting. And you can see we deleted everything, and so it's like, it shows that we selected things. It shows that which ones we selected. It shows what we did, which is to delete them. So I think even we can just type in do delete, and you can delete the sphere. Like, it's that simple. And so why would you want to ever script over, pressing buttons in here? Well, it used to be that we didn't have all these funky buttons up here. You had to actually make them yourselves, and you had to script them yourselves. So sometimes you find scripting easier. Sometimes you also find scripting easier when you're like, hey, I need to create, 8 objects and spread them equally between these 2 points. Or I want to infinitely rotate this one thing, or things like that. You can even set up animation shots. You can do all sorts of things. You'll find if you search MEL scripting and things like that, one of the first things you find is a bunch of people talking about how it makes creating like short film animations so much easier because you can actually cue shots and things like that via scripting. So instead of like walking you through Hello World and stuff like that, what I kind of wanted to do was show you, and I'll link these all up for you inside of the module because I have a page for it now, but I just haven't gotten through it. Maya's documentation for Python sucks. So in general, it sucks. Even they've got like a basic one, and it's just it's just not fun. Like, we're just gonna go with that. It's just not fun. Um, and they start talking about, you know, how to do things, and any of the ways that they do it, it's not fun. Although, this isn't so bad, because this kind of walks you through some super simple ones. But they've got one that they're like, hey, introduction to, and this is 2013. I think it's a 2021 that's so technical that it's like hard to read. So, I thought it may be this one. Oh no, this is the one that's actually good. So if you can find the 2013 documentation, this is the one that I actually like. And yeah, you can use 2013, you can use, as far as the documentation goes, you can use relatively old ones, because it doesn't change. It's a scripting language, it just doesn't change. So, well, okay, they do change, but they change very rarely. Like, we saw that with JavaScript with the way that they change. But, so, you saw, if we enter MEL commands are a lot easier, they're a lot simpler, because we don't have to talk. Basically, if you're writing in Python, you first have to convert it to MEL scripting. So that's kind of where we get that CMDs from. And so, like, when we see here, you can see, hey, move the cube this way, whereas we've got this kind of stuff. Whereas when we were using Python, you saw that we had to do this kind of CMD thing. So, and sometimes this will automatically work for you without you having to import anything. Let's see. Let's add a cube. Python. Let me make sure I'm writing it right. CMDs move 1, 2, 3. And so you can actually save these as kind of macros and things, and you can shove them up here on your bars. That didn't work. Oh, because I didn't. Okay, so it does work without you having to import it. Cool. So it used to be that you had to make sure to write like the import statement at the beginning of every kind of thing. Again, I use Maya LT more than I use Maya, so in my Maya LT, I have a whole, okay, on my laptop, I have a whole bar that up here that's dedicated to just the different scripts that I use and what I do. But you can see we moved the cube. Like, I know this is like revolutionary. Oh my god, why didn't I just, you know, actually move it? But you know, you can get pretty precise using this kind of stuff. That's one of the ways that it gets used. You see a lot of architecture students who like Maya better than Max, which is kind of rare because Max definitely plays more like a CAD system. But you see them where they end up using a lot of kind of Python and MEL scripting instead, because you can get more precise with it. So if we're talking, yeah, sorry about my 800 tabs down there and 800 tabs up here. So once we've got that kind of stuff working, you can see it's relatively easy. You select the thing, you can scale, you can delete, you can see this deletes a little bit differently, so than when we were just using the do delete for MEL. And so they have slightly different kinds of talk. And there is, if you have Pluralsight, there is a video for it. It's about 2 hours long. Honestly, I'm not a fan. I watched it. I'm not too much of a fan. Because it spends a lot of time talking about why Python is so much better than MEL, and then not really showing you how to do anything. And then it starts showing you, and then it like goes back to talking about variables and lists and arrays and loops. So things that, you know, you don't need to know to actually be able to do this stuff. And that's kind of the one thing that you're going to have to look when you're looking for tutorials and things like that on MEL and Maya is whether they actually are geared towards artists or geared towards production people, or whether they're like a tech head dream. So some people get so technical into it, and it's like, I don't need to know all this to just get things to work. Um, this is one of my favorite ones. It's called Getting Started with Simple Python Scripting in Maya. And kind of their whole thing is, yeah, you don't need to be coders and scripters to speed up your tasks. And it walks you through relatively simply. It talks about, one of the first things that you do is hello world. And then you start doing 3D text with color, and then how to do commands. But yeah, it gets into some little stuff like that. So, it's kind of cool. Again, you've got some more things like create a geometry trail using Python and Maya. So you can do some cool things that maybe you would never think about. How, like, you ever have those things when you're modeling, you're like, how the heck am I going to model this? Like, you're like, okay, I know that it needs to do this. I know that I need to do this. But how do I actually do that? Sometimes thinking in scripting or figuring out how you could do it in scripting is like incredibly easy. So, yeah, I'll share this one because I really like, and I really like in general, Lester Banks tends to do pretty good. Um, I enjoy them, but you also have something like An Artist's Guide, learning Python scripting for animation, and this is one of the ones that was talking about when I talked about this idea that a lot of people use it for automating their animations. They had to do, let's see, the project had 110 shots with 440 scene files. Okay, so if you were going to manually go through all of that, life's going to suck. Like, there's just no way around it. Life is going to suck. So, instead, what they end up doing is they created a script for it. And they talk about the fact, this was one of the, honestly, this is one of the most, at least their intro is one of the most interesting and best articles I've seen on this, because they're talking about this idea, you don't have to learn everything. You don't have to memorize everything. Anybody who's taken me for classes, I mean, you guys have taken me for this one. If you take me for level design, the first thing that I kind of talk about, and I try and harp on this, is the fact that I'm not there to make you memorize things. Like, I will never ask you to not, or to have something memorized. I will 100%. It's more important for you to be able to know where to find an answer than it is for you to, like, be able to rattle it off the top of your head. Like, you're living in the information age. You can Google things. Like, yeah. And in the programming world, the reality is the person who gets the job is the person who can Google how to do something faster than the next person. Like, yeah, that's the reality of it. Like, you don't have to know a programming language. As long as you know how to Google and you can figure it out before you have to ask your boss, or your boss sees you struggling, no one will ever be the wiser. One of the professors I had loves to tell the story of the idea that he worked for a company and the coworker didn't know Python, but the coworker kept getting jobs and kept getting promoted because he could Google faster than anybody else. So, yeah. Memorization is cool, and that's great if that's how your brain works. But the reality is that it's so much extra time. If you know where to find the answers, you're good. So, and this idea that you need a problem to solve. But all of this is done with kind of code, things like that. So, I'll link this one because I do like how they're talking. It's not going to be something that's going to be 100% helpful for y'all unless you're doing animation, or you're needing to do a bunch of animation. And again, I'm not here to really kind of, I'm just wanting to give you guys like a tip of an iceberg, because I don't want to overwhelm you with stuff like that. That being said, this one. If I remember right, if this one still works. So there's a problem, and you guys may have run into it before, where if you freeze something and you export it to Unity without using like the game exporter, suddenly it's not at 000, like it's not at the origin, and it's like, wait a minute, but I froze it, shouldn't it be at the origin? Because that's what we're taught, you know, you freeze it, it should be at the origin. And like the game exporter, for those who don't know what I'm talking about, if you go to game exporter, there is an option inside of here that will move it to the origin. And you can even see now that it actually kind of, you can do everything through script. It's kind of awesome. But if we don't move it to origin and we export it to Unity, it's still going to kind of be like floating not quite in the center. There's a couple different codes, a couple different options to try and fix that, and this one sometimes works, sometimes it doesn't. And again, 100%, like, you find something online that works for you, you copy it, like. And if we come in here, let's see, you can see it didn't move anywhere. And so there's a bunch of different ones that are like, hey, you just do this and that'll work. There's a good chance that you've got to test and test and test and test until you find the things that actually work. And if I remember right, oh wait, there we go, that one does work, yay. Okay, cool. Control Enter is how you run things, or you can press the play button. But there's a couple different ones out there if you're trying to get things to actually move to the origin that don't really work. And then again, you then have to go in and you have to freeze because we've now like moved everything around. So we just go back in and freeze. Yeah, these buttons used to not exist. You used to have to code them. You used to have to like actually write the script out for them. Life is good when you don't have to do that. So that's probably, honestly, before the game exporter existed, that was literally the one script that I used 900% of the time that I was doing anything. Now that the game exporter exists, I don't really have to do that because it works great. But again, there's also using Xforms, which I don't really like that one. I'm actually, yeah. But, so, you know, well, I'm not a coder, I don't like coding, etc., etc. What can I do? Well, there's all sorts of people who have compiled things for you. So you can come in, like, so I've got DeFelici, who has a bunch of different, like, options for you. This one's actually really good. And you can copy this, but you can also, inside of Maya, there's kind of an import script, so you can pull scripts into it. So you can load a script, and you have to kind of find where it's hiding, but you can load scripts like that if you want. So we could come over here, and what this one does is it distributes, so 2 objects between 2 points, basically. So, or yeah. So we could come in and we could download this, or we can even just copy this, and this one should, that's the wrong button, this one should work. If I remember right, this one works. Did that one work? Did that one not work? That one did not work. Oh, okay. Why did you not work? That's strange. Usually that one works, and I'm not 100% sure why it didn't work today. But generally, it's just kind of a drag and drop kind of situation where you can go and find scripts that other people have written. and I probably messed something up in one of my editors. But so this has a bunch of pretty decent, so resetting your animation controllers, renaming things, stuff like that. Reflect. So, when you need to mirror things, you need to mirror it as a group because sometimes that doesn't work like it's supposed to. Sometimes it's just a chain generator. Like, literally, nobody ever wants to make a chain. So a script which can generate a chain given a mesh as a ring chain. Oh, that's why that didn't work. Because I didn't have the objects that I needed. So a script which can generate a chain given a mesh as the ring chain following the shape of a curve. So you create a curve, and then you create the chain. And so that's kind of like, we've seen this where you kind of duplicate along the curve. Like, there's buttons for that in Maya. But sometimes it's easier to say, hey, this thing already exists and I can do this. Okay, cool. Maybe this will work better. So what we can do is again, you can import it or you could copy it, whatever you want to do. Let's see if I can get this one to work. And it wants a torus. Let's just kind of make this guy a little... Okay, let's just go ahead and do that. Let's make ourselves a curve. And then let's grab both of these guys, and wherever our scripting has gone. No matches. Huh? Okay. Oh, create the polytorus. Oh wait, this should actually do it without me having to... Okay, so that created one, but it didn't actually create the thing that we needed. So it created the torus, but it didn't create the curve for us, which is a little strange. Okay, why is this not working? Okay, so literally I had all of these working last night, and now I literally don't know what I'm doing. Okay, well, the ones that I know for sure work, we'll go to the other ones. So I don't always do a lot of scripting when it comes to Maya and things like that, because the stuff that I usually do, I don't need to do it, or I've already got these already rewritten for myself. But there are some, because I'm in the Python scripts and not in the MEL scripts? No, that's MEL scripts. But so they have my scripts, they have, blend shapes. Yay! Nobody likes doing blend shapes. But so they've got a few different things. This is kind of one of the ones that I like the best, though. It's, I think, 101 things that make things great. So, turtle nodes, I don't think we actually have those anymore. We may still have turtle nodes. Do we still have, every now and then you'll see something that pops up that's like turtle with caps, and it's a pain in the butt because you can never get rid of them. You can just delete them. Auto scale for directional lights. Lights for viewport 2.0. So those of you guys who use a lot of Maya, one of the things that viewport 2.0 doesn't really do well is lighting. Like, it doesn't really look great. So maybe you want to add some extra lighting. Maybe you want to create a procedural city. So if this one still works, oh cool, it does. it will procedurally like create this for you. So, and that's all done with a script. That's not done with any kind of actual modeling. That's done with a script. Scripting's cool like that. So, if you need to randomize the UV, if you need to select the adjacent things, select every nth component. So, if you want to select, every other edge loop, so we can grab this guy and let's come over here. Let's do this. So we've got our cylinder, and you can see that it's grabbed. Oh, why is it grabbed every edge loop? Oh, that's kind of cool. Okay, so object mode, edge mode. No? Okay, so this one should actually work because I use this one. Why is nothing working when I want to show you guys? So generally that works. Why are we not working like we're supposed to? Okay. Everything hates me, and this is not great. So that should work. I promise that works. Because I use it. I use these. These specifically I use all the time when I'm trying to do like gears and things like that, because that's easier to do than like to go around a circle and select 800s of them. It's great when you're doing like high poly things and you're like, I don't have time to go and select 900 different edge loops. You can do, a simple background to create kind of like a studio background. Come on, close and accept. And we're gonna watch. This isn't gonna work either, because why would anything work? Ah, that one actually worked. Cool. So, yeah, so suddenly we've got, a nice studio background so that you can take some really good pictures. It's a really easy way to kind of add in, a nice background that you can then have all your bounce lights off of, and it's gonna do what you want. So there's lots of ways to use scripting inside of here to do different things when it comes to lights, when it comes to coloring. Like, you can actually procedurally color your meshes and things like that. Particle instance baking, a water drop generator. Oh, this isn't the one that's 101. I should have another one somewhere. Curious. But yeah, so this is probably this guy has a lot of, this is one, like I said, one of my favorite. This is a plugin for it, which is bonus tools for Maya, and it gives you some extra kind of tools to use. I suggest having it because it does some things like performance utilities, especially if you guys are doing heavy rigging. It's pretty good if it's not already included in your stuff. It has some things for like weight painting for skin weights that is helpful. Yeah. Yeah, and so then some other things, it has things like auto unwrap, UV tools, and stuff like that that are pretty helpful. Um, and these again are all written inside of MEL or Maya, or oh my god, MEL or Python, depending upon what they're doing. But yeah, why I couldn't get half the stuff to work that I know I use all the time? I don't know, but it is what it is. Oh, that one doesn't work anymore. That one used to create rivets for you, which was really nice. So you may be able to like way back machine it and find it, but yeah. Okay, so are there any questions about how Maya or MEL or etc. works? Or Maya with MEL and Python? I know I didn't really show you anything, like insofar as, okay, let's walk through this. But I just kind of wanted to give you a heads up that it exists and that there's tons of resources out there for you to kind of learn it if you want to. Like, if you want, I can go through and actually make a video on how to do all this stuff. I kind of last minute was like, hey, I guess this might be something interesting for y'all to learn, and then didn't actually have time because I was dealing with all sorts of other things to write up a quick lesson for it. So, yeah. Thoughts, wants, opinions? Like, by far, this is probably my favorite series for it. So, and again, I will link you everything that I have. I'll put it up in the modules for you. Yeah, and so alternatively, if you guys are people who prefer Macs, there's Mac scripting. Mac script is what it's called. So again, and there's Visual Mac script, which is pretty cool too. So yeah, it's kind of and again, there will be a lot of scripting for artists in 3ds Max, which is going to be for those of you guys who are, again, more on the artist side or who prefer Macs. Yeah. Yeah. So, again, I know I didn't really show you much. I just wanted to kind of give you a heads up that it exists, that now that you guys understand, or at least can pretend to understand some scripting, that this may not seem as daunting when you're looking at how things work, because when we looked at things like wow, I can find the things. When we look at things like this, all of these make sense. You know, create a small background. Okay, so we're going to create a polyplane. The width is 1, the height is 1, SX, SY, AX, a curve. Okay, what's all this channel 1 thing? So we know that we want to set the attribute, so that makes sense. We can figure out what an attribute is. Polyplane of a height, so polyplane.height, and we've seen .height in a lot of other languages and a lot of other things we've done, and 40. So it's just understanding the difference for how this is written versus how, say, we would write it in Python. You know? So, and that's kind of the power of understanding scripting languages, is that once you kind of understand one, you just have to figure out the syntax. It's the same with a lot of like actual languages when you're talking about speaking. So, we talk about English, where we would say, you know, the beautiful lady. When we talk about Spanish, we would say, if we were to translate it directly into English, we would say the lady beautiful. And it's just little tiny things like that. It's not crazy. It's not anything weird. Or it's the difference between American spelling, where we drop all the U's and switch things around. Whereas if we looked at, you know, how they spell things in Canada or Great Britain, they spell them a different way. And then even when you look at English in India, they've got even a slightly different way of spelling that way as well. So it's just a matter of kind of diving into it. And again, I'll link you. I don't like the Pluralsight. I will link it for you, but I'm not as much of a huge fan of the Pluralsight video for it. Generally, I'm a decent, happy person when it comes to Pluralsight. Those who take my level design class know that I enjoy Pluralsight. But this is one of the ones that I don't think is done as well. This one, however, I really like the way that they use it because, again, their whole thing is, you know, you're an artist, so you maybe don't need to know as much of the technical stuff. So, yeah. Okay, so any questions, wants, desires, needs about anything? If you want, again, I can actually make a video and walk through how to do some basic stuff. Not for next week because we'll be off next week, but for the week after that, which will be study week. And again, I'd probably just upload a recording because I don't want to take more time away from y'all than I need to. Also, any questions about your final project or what's due today, etc. in the next couple weeks, what's happening. Okay, so any questions at all? Let's go to calendar. Also, no, there is no assignment with MEL or the Python inside of Maya. I'm not making you. I just wanted to let you guys know that it existed and that it's super helpful. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, going over the calendar again, just so that we're all on the same page. You had a crap ton of stuff due yesterday. That's because we moved things out of other weeks so that you could have them due. Code Academy is due tonight. Then you have next week a Phaser.js. Next week we do not have class. We do not have class here. I do suggest that as soon as you get this done, you do this Phaser.js share assignment. It's literally just, hey, after taking the Code Academy tutorial, what's your opinion on Phaser and JavaScript versus Python, Pygame, and Lua Love? Which do you like more? Is it more confusing? If you had your choice of two languages being focused on for this course, which two would you pick? Anything else that you want to add? Like, it's just, and yeah, I just kind of want to know your opinion. Because again, thinking about changing the course up to be a little bit more relevant, or because technically HTML5 is the next kind of big thing, or it is already a big thing, but yeah. So that's all that is. Your final project checkup. I want to know how your game is going. Please have started at least looking and figuring out what you need to change in your old game to make it better, or to make it what you want. Post screenshots of your current game and your Trello hack and plan boards so we can see what your lists are for what you need to do. Okay, so go away. No class on the 28th. Then the week we come back again is going to be a lab week, and that's study week because it's the week before finals. And then we have final presentations. Final presentations, final project, they work the same. Technically, you know, I have you turn them into two places, you get 2 grades, but it's just about this. And it's gonna be the same way that it always works, where you post a video and you need to comment on other people's stuff, so please comment on other people's stuff. Play their game, watch their video at a minimum. play their game, that kind of stuff. Okay, any questions, wants, desires, needs? Okay, so for the rest of today, it is a lab day, so please work on what you need to work on. Those of you who haven't turned in your phaser.js stuff or your phaser code academy stuff, go do the code academy thing. Like I said, it's 9 hours, so and your grade for that is equivalent to how much you finish. So whatever you want that grade to be, do that amount. I enjoyed it. I've gone through it, but I also like JavaScript, so that may not be for you. Work on your games, work on finishing up, getting those kind of task lists and what you want to do and how you want to do it. Again, make sure you write your postmortems at the beginning of this class if you missed it. I do want to thank you, and not facetiously, like, honest to God, want to thank you guys for turning in your games, for getting them in on time. Those of you who got them in early, yes, you will get extra credit points. So, yeah. So you guys have about, let's see, it's 10. So you have about 2.5 hours left of this class to work on your Code Academy or any of the other stuff that you have due for me. I exist during this time. Please know that I do exist if you guys want help, if you need to ask me questions. I'm here. I may not be on mic, but I can get on mic if that's what you want. Otherwise, I'm probably going to go sew on masks, because I make face masks and donate face masks, so because I have no life and it's not like I get to leave the house anymore. So yeah. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and let you guys go so you can do whatever you need to do, and I will talk to you in 2 weeks. Have a wonderful Thanksgiving. Please stay safe. Please stay smart, because we're looking at massive numbers in San Antonio as far as corona. Whether you believe it's real or a hoax, I do want you to stay safe. I do want you to think about your health and the health of the people you live with. And I will see you, I think it's December 4th is our next class meeting time day, something like that. So yeah, have a great Thanksgiving, and I will see you in 2 weeks. Bye.